Good to see you. Hi, guys. So you must be Perikash, right?
Yes, sir. Good morning,
All right.
sir.
And you're Natasha?
Yes, sir.
Very nice to meet you both.
Thank you, sir.
Please sit.
Thank you.
So, congratulations, I guess, on being the last two.
Thank you.
Who's going to win? Well, let me just say at the outset that I've been doing this for a very long time, 27 years in the U.S. government as a diplomat overseas, probably considerably older than either of you are. And in my humble opinion, the single best thing that the United States does overseas is help educate and train young people like yourselves. And so we're very proud, actually, to be supporters of the Junior President Program. I haven't watched too much of it, but I've watched a little bit of it. It's been a fascinating program. I think it's been a great opportunity for all of the contestants to learn more about democracy, about civic duties, really. And you guys are kind of stand-ins for Zambian youth, in a sense. I guess what I want to ask is, what have you learned? What are you taking away from this program? Do you guys want to grow up to be presidents now?
Personally, I would love to be a president. I think that throughout the competition, I've learned to be humble, first of all. I've learned a lot of things in different aspects of the economy. When I was joining the program, going for auditions, obviously I had done my research, but then being in the competition, I got to meet a lot of people, government officials, and we've been learning. It was very hard, and the competition was very stiff. So it was wonderful to see how we would work together. At one point, we were in groups, for example, and in as much as we were competing, we still had to work together. So I've learned about unity, working as a group, and really just the feeling of being on set and just making policy statements like a real president, for me, was a wonderful feeling. It wasn't about waiting for the right time to be president.
Sure.
I got to have that feeling right there and then it was amazing to see how the Zambian people responded to my story, and indeed how I got to touch people's hearts, how people would look at me like little children in the communities, and they get inspired by what I do and all that. So like I just became a role model overnight, and it was amazing to see how my life was transformed.
Congratulations.
As a young person, and I aim to work harder in my different aspects of my career. And
so, Natasha, if you were president right now, what would you do? What would be your focus? What would be the first thing you would do as president?
In terms of,
I don't know. In terms of anything, you're president of Zambia right this moment. What are the issues that you think the president should be most concerned with?
I think the most thing that we must be concerned with is mostly when we look at the things that we do, like the exports, for example. One of the things that has caused the kwacha to actually be depreciated is because we don't have enough people to appreciate or to consider how important our things are. So you find that people don't really find our products attractive. So to a lot of governments in order to introduce a better a trademark, in order whereby we'll add value to these goods, like the copper. For example, I would ask you as America to help us with people, to come and train us with skills, so that the people in the labor force will be adequately enough equipped, and then also would take advantage of our capital stock, which is these natural resources, and thereby also will improve our state of technology. Thereby, if we do this, we will also be eradicating unemployment, which is one of the biggest issues, youth unemployment. So I find with all these skills and all this training, that would be one of the things I'll do, improving the economic state of the country by adding value to what we produce as a nation.
Great. Okay.
That's one of those things.
So then, if you're looking at what the principal challenges are to the president, what would you identify them as? The economy? You're talking about sort of developing the country, developing the economy. Would you see that as the president's principal challenge?
Yes, I would see that as one of his challenges, because maybe it's also just the people as well themselves, because we need a mindset change. The attitude of our work culture right now is a bit low, and people are not really, they're not involved, they're not proud to be a nation, to be part of Zambia. So I think also even the people themselves contribute to a challenge that the president can have. The nation developing, yes, he has the ideas, but then we also need help from other people. We need experienced help. We need better, America, for example, one of the greatest countries, if we work together, it's also making us great. Because great minds always work together, and two heads are better than one. We've got people with ideas, but then we don't have the platform. We don't have the equipment, say we don't have maybe enough research labs and all those things. So I find that's also one of the things that may be a challenge to the president himself.
So, actually it's an article of faith in the United States that anyone can grow up to be president of the United States. It's maybe one of the things we're most proud of is the fact that we've been a democracy for such a long time, and that really any person can ultimately grow up and aspire to the highest office in our country. President Obama, for instance, is not from a particularly privileged background. Very smart guy, did very well in school, and on the basis of that, he had a successful career as a lawyer and then as a politician. Now he's our president. But he came from a relatively humble background, and I think it's one of the aspects that, again, that we're proudest of as a country, and it's something that we share with Zambia, that it seems to me anyway, that many Zambian presidents come from humble backgrounds, that anyone in Zambia ought to be able to aspire to be president of this country. I think that one of the things we try to do through a program like this is try to help identify future leaders, and I think in that regard the program's been pretty successful. It's identified the two of you as potential future leaders of Zambia. So, Perry Kent, tell me, how will you stay engaged? How old are you now?
I'm 17 now.
17. So 17 is pretty young. You have a little ways to wait before you become president, perhaps. So how will you stay engaged in the civic life of Zambia and kind of build yourself to that point?
Well, I aim to concentrate more on education to make sure that in as much as I aspire in leadership, I have a stronger educational background as well. I come from a humble background, but then it's amazing to see how my dream has been shaped through this program, for example. The skills that I've acquired, the exposure, and meeting wonderful people like you, for example, who lead me towards my goals as a leader in future. I aim to make Zambia a better place as a youth, because nowadays the problem we have in our country is that most youths are blaming government for almost everything. I think that as a young person, I've really gotten to a place where I want to be the change I want to see in my society, for example. Through reading, for example, I've learned a lot of things. For example, I've been in government's shoes to know how it feels like to run a country. It might seem like a dream or fantasy, but I've felt what a president would feel actually when the economy is down, like right now, for example, being asked questions and everything. So I think a step further from here would be, this is just the beginning of a stronger foundation of me running into the future as a leader. I see myself as a leader, and indeed I won't be surprised if I be president of the Republic of Zambia in a few years to come. So really, junior president has been life-changing for me, and I believe that with the skills that I've acquired and the experience and meeting people who've made it has really inspired me even more to actually achieve a lot in my life as a young person.
That's great. And how will you stay engaged, Natasha? You're younger even than Perry Kent, aren't you?
Yes.
14, 15, 14.
14.
14, wow. All right. So you have a little bit of schooling left to do.
Yes, it's true. Just like he has mentioned, this program has really exposed us to a lot. We've learned a lot. We've met these government officials, they've told us that you can be whatever you want to be. Looking at where they come from and where they started, it was low, but now that they're high, and it's about being humble, it's about being a leader. Because before now, yes, I may have had some leadership roles and all, but now it's like I'm standing and I feel like I indeed am ruling a nation, a whole nation. It's like it's a burden on me as well. So I find it has given me this responsibility that even the biggest of issues now I am able to handle. So you find through this I am able to engage even with other people. Just I think a few days ago a pastor asked me if I could come and talk to some of his youth to inspire them, And in such journeys you find people really need these things. We need these initiatives whereby these platforms, youth can showcase their ability, their potential. Before now, I never knew that I could do such things. before now, I never knew that I could reach such an extent to even meet an ambassador from America like you, just like he has said. So, this opportunity has really given me a way open for it has opened up doors for me. So, I'm hoping to engage in even more organizations to improve even more, because this is not the end. Whether I win or I lose, either way, at least I have learned a lot. But then I still look forward to going even deeper and greater. And opportunities will come, but I'm sure they'll come in the best forms that they can, and I'll manage to get them.
That's great. Well, I want to wish you both the best of luck, and to again to congratulate you on your performance. A friend of mine in the government actually sort of underscored for me the importance of leadership the other day. He had this sort of saying that he uses, that an army of sheep led by a lion are more likely to win than an army of lions led by a sheep. So something to think about. So how important leadership really is to the future of any country and to the future of Zambia. So I wish you success, not just in this tournament, but in life, and hope that I'll be reading about you years from now as leaders of Zambia.
Thank you once again, Mr. Ambassador, for hosting us today, this morning, and for sparing a busy time. And as a young person, really, obviously, I have so many questions to ask to the American ambassador. But my concern really is the trade and the commercial bilateral relationship that Zambia has with the United States of America, in terms of both countries complementing each other. I think as a country, Zambia, we want to move from aid to trade, and a situation where at least we stop being totally dependent on other countries, but actually grow as a country and our economy to grow. There are a lot of things that we can learn from the United States of America in terms of policy, for example. One of the challenges that we are facing as Zambia is strong policies that can be able to implement aspects of trade and bilateral relations. Your constitution, for example, was implemented in, is it 1789, if I remember correctly, and it's a lot older than our country's constitution, meaning that, and then it's been only been amended like 27 times, which shows how strong the political system in America is, and indeed how much we can learn from America. America is not a signatory to a lot of international treaties because their constitution caters for a lot of things. Like the UNCRC, for example. America remains the only country in the world, because Somalia, I think they signed last year. America remains the only country in the world which has not signed the UNCRC. So I want to have your take on how much the United States government is doing to strengthen the bond of bilateral trade in different aspects of the economy, like entrepreneurship and tourism as well.
It's an interesting question. It's actually one that I've been quite preoccupied with ever since I came to Zambia. I mean, when I look at Zambia, I see a country with enormous economic potential. There's no reason why this country can't be at least a middle-income country in the near future, and quite prosperous in the longer term. You have everything that you need in order to be successful economically. I would say that it's really incumbent upon Zambians to make that happen, and upon the Zambian government. So the United States, any international donor, the World Bank, IMF even, our roles are to help at the margins. The real push has to come from within the country. And I share your goal that our relationship move away from assistance and towards trade and investment. I think that's the right way to go. I think that Zambia has actually been making a lot of progress in that regard. I mean, you've had better than 10 years of strong economic growth. It's flagging a bit this year. And I think that has a lot to do with external factors. There may be some internal ones as well. But I'm confident that sooner or later Zambia's economy will begin to grow fast again. But I do think that there are certain things that the Zambian government and the Zambian people need to do. I think that Natasha touched on one of it, which is sort of a change of mentality. It's really not the role of the government to grow the economy. It's the role of the private sector. The government is supposed to create the foundation, the sinews for an economy. The roads, the airports, the ports, the border crossings, that sort of thing. It's supposed to educate young people so that they can be successful economically. So the government lays the foundation, but it's the private sector itself that needs to grow the economy. And in that regard, I think it's very important for the Zambian government to create the proper enabling environment, to create an economy that nurtures young people like yourselves, people with bright ideas who want to take them to market and who want to make money, and in the process they're going to drive growth and they're going to create jobs. And so I think that that's a place where the United States can perhaps be a bit of a role model, because in the United States our economy is virtually entirely driven by the private sector. The United States government doesn't not play a role in the economy besides creating the foundations for it. We don't have parastatals, we don't have state-owned enterprises. And in point of fact, an interesting thing about the United States that I think a lot of people don't understand is the extent to which growth is driven by small and medium-sized enterprises. So something like 2/3 of the businesses in the United States, 2/3 of the economy are in the hands of small and medium-sized enterprises. So yes, we have many huge, powerful American corporations like ExxonMobil or Apple or something like that, but they're not actually where the bulk of the jobs are found, and they're not where most of the economic growth occurs either. So I guess that would be, my message is that what I would like to see is Zambia and the United States having a much stronger economic relationship over time, where American investors are coming into Zambia and partnering with young Zambian entrepreneurs and creating businesses that create jobs and that create growth.
Well, my concern is really the future. He's mentioned about the economic state of the country, but then, as America, you have really developed initiatives where you're helping young African people to be great leaders in the future. So I would like to know how can America and Zambia, work together in order to achieve this, in order to invest more in the youth, because just like I mentioned earlier, there is need for Americans also to help us with skills. Because we've got the labor force, but then the labor force is not trained adequately enough in order to take advantage of our capital stock, which is like the natural resources. And if we don't do this, you find even our state of technology, we're not able to evolve with the state of technology that the world is evolving in. Because there's a saying even that America's history is Zambia's future, and that's not how it's supposed to be. We're supposed to be, at the same pace in developing and all those things also, and also just helping us with all these initiatives and these ideas just to bring out whatever we can. And also the best way, what do you think would be the best way, just like he's asked, what exactly can we really do to be able to strengthen these policies, to be able to influence the private sector to help the government in order for us to work together for the economy to grow? Just as you said, it's been ruled by the private sector right now. So what exactly can you really advise us to do exactly on the private sector itself? And also how to take advantage of our natural resources. We need all these bases, we need all this research and all these things. So also how to make it easier for us to access information, to make it easier for us to access all these things and all these, just like how it's done in America. How can we make Zambia a better place, even just technology-wise, and for a greater future, even with the youth and all these things? I think that's one of my major concerns as well.
Okay, well, let me say again that I think one of the single best things that we do is help educate young people around the world. We maybe don't do as much of it as we could, but again, ultimately it's up to an individual country to educate its youth, and I don't think you can stress that enough, that if you look at how, I've said before that Zambia could be an African lion, the same way that South Korea or Malaysia or Singapore, countries like that, became Asian tigers. But if you look at the history of all of those countries, the ones that really sort of improved their economic development quite rapidly in recent years, they by and large did it through education, by concentrating and prioritizing the education of their young people. And if you stop and think about the logic of that, if you're trying to attract foreign investors to a country to come in and to build factories and to create jobs and whatnot, to put money on the ground, one of the single most important things they're going to be looking for is a workforce that they can train. They don't want to have to educate them. They want to be able to train them, which means they've got to be literate already anyway. So I guess my answer to you would be that, you know, in a developing country, there are always lots of priorities, of course, but I don't think that anything should be more of a priority for Zambia than educating its young people. That's really the key to driving future growth. I'll also mention this African proverb that I learned not too long ago that I thought was absolutely great. That the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time to plant a tree is today. So when it comes to educating Zambia's youth, start today.
Just like you've said, the educational aspect, you find that when America, for example, wants to invest in our country and then finds that our youths are not literate, they will be forced to start educating them from foundation, for example, which becomes a stress to the private sector, which is one of the challenges that Zambia is facing, but really moving away from the economy to a political aspect, because you've emphasized a lot on leadership. African leaders really the most condemned in the world in terms of leadership, democracy, and really, how can we strengthen our leadership aspects, except from just educating the youth and giving them education? How can we build a nation where leaders can be able to, obey the law, like, for example, step down when they've lost an election, for example, and really work to benefit the people and not themselves as well? I'd like your take as the United States of America ambassador to Zambia to give and highlight on what you think about African leadership and how we can improve it.
Well, let me focus specifically on Zambia because virtually every American corporation that comes in here that's interested in doing business in Zambia, setting up shop here, there's a principal reason why they come here, because Zambia is peaceful, democratic, and stable. And so I can't really stress enough how important those are to the future of the country, to the future of the country economically. And I guess what I would say is that you've been fortunate, in a sense. I mean, the Zambian people are by nature, I think, peaceful, stable, and democratic, and the country reflects that. You've had a number of successful elections over the last 2 or 3 decades. You've had changes of power, and really, you have people exercising the right to vote and the right to determine their own leadership. And I think that that's the key point, because how do you make leaders do the right thing? Well, you have to hold them accountable. And at the end of the day, the only people who can really hold leaders accountable are the people themselves. So you have to actually, you have to be involved in politics. You have to be involved in elections. You have to vote. You have to make the argument to your leaders that our voices need to be heard, and that it's your job to run the country effectively, to do a good job, to improve the welfare, and to improve the security of average Zambians. And if you do that, you'll be reelected. And if you don't, we will find someone else to replace you. That's the nature of politics in the United States, for instance, is that every 4 years we have a presidential election, and often that election turns on basic questions like, are you better off today than you were 4 years ago? That may not always be a fair question, but the point is that it's incumbent upon the people themselves to hold their politicians accountable. I would add that journalists have a role to play in that as well. In many respects, journalists are the institution that gives voice to the aspirations of average people.
I'd like to take a photo for our social media.
Sure, of course. Yep. It's a pleasure. Yep. So you're from the Lusaka area, right?
Yes.
And you're from Copperville. No. They're both from Lusaka as well? Okay, so all right, so I'm between the flags, all right? And on either side, okay?
Yeah, the producers.
Yeah, well, we do one with just these, and then we'll have the producers. please. Come on.
Can we just take one with the producers?
Yeah,
Of course,
sure.
yes, of course.
I guess take mine, just mine.
Look at you. This one is going on too, or?
Yes.
Oh.
See you at the finals. All right, I look forward to it.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, Kent.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Natasha, good luck.
In 1964, our forefathers raised the flag that would make me the proud Zambian I am today.
They built a nation founded on respect for people of all colors and religions. For you, me, him, and her.
For the freedom to stand and sing proudly as Zambians together. To love and be loved in peace and harmony.
We speak 73 different languages in 10 provinces with people with different shapes, sizes, and colors.
Wouldn't it be nice if every day over 14 million people buy Zambian to extend the hand of prosperity to other proud Zambians? Because we know whose flag we're flying. Do you?
The Association of Business Executives, ABE, is awarding